but hopefully it'll go nice and smoothly. It's going to be a bit of a Blue Peter style sort of, because there's a bit of it stuff is prepared earlier. So I'm just going to be showing you how we make our vegan haggis at the Wildcat Cafe. That is a vegan cafe on Fort William High Street, for those of you who don't know. As I said, we've been open about just over a year now. We do a lot of food, cooking from raw ingredients, a bit like we're doing today. We also make specialty coffee and loose leaf tea. So today I'm going to show you how we sort of make our haggis, and also we'll be doing a very simple sort of creamy sort of peppercorn sauce. We'll have a little bit of whiskey, but it won't be too whiskey, so I wouldn't call it whiskey sauce. So first I'm going to just crack on with the sauce. So I am using a little bit of this, it's called a vegan block. It's a reasonably new product. It's a really good butter alternative. If you can see in the pan, it's sort of melting a bit like butter does. It does have a tiny bit of almonds in, so those of you who don't like nuts or allergic to them, please don't try the sauce. If you don't have this, we do sell it at our stall and at the cafe, and they sell it at some supermarkets and health food shops. If you don't have that, anything like coconut oil, I really enjoy cooking with that. You can get it raw and it does have a bit of a coconutty taste, or you can get one that's the taste has been taken out a little bit, or any sort of sunflower spread, olive spread, or anything like that would work fine. So I'm just melting that there, and I'm going to add just some sort of finely chopped onions, which I did prepare earlier, to get our sauce started. See how that's. So we're just going to leave that. That's going to take most of our demo time. We'll be cooking those onions and getting the sauce done. Stick the lid on, keep us going. Right, and then we will also, I've got some haggis that I did prepare earlier. I'm just going to stick this in the oven and sort of taste it, so they'll be slightly warm. So our haggis at the cafe is a bit of a labour-intensive process. It's not something I would cook every day, but I think it's really worthwhile cooking stuff from scratch. You know exactly what's in it. You get to adjust it to your own, flavours and things that you really like. And obviously it means there's no sort of nasty foods or anything, in it. So it's definitely worth making things yourself. But yeah, it definitely takes more time. And this haggis, we actually make it the day before. It needs to cool. When it comes out of the oven, it's still quite soft and malleable. It's quite hard to cut it. It's a bit sort of wet. But once it's cooled, it's sort of slightly firmer. So we leave it for a day, and then it will be a bit firmer, a bit more like sort of standard haggis. And then we'll chop that up, and we'll sometimes have haggis meats and tatties with gravy as a main course, or we put it in sandwiches, or you can do all sorts of things with any sort of haggis. So to get to this stage, we have to do a few other things with some of the stuff that's out here. So first, I'm just going to put some ground flaxseed here, which is also called linseed. I'm going to mix that up because we need it to mix with some water for about 5 or 10 minutes before we can use it. For those of you who if those of you interested in sort of nutrition, I highly recommend adding ground flaxseed to your diet. It's really high in omega-3s, oils, which are sort of generally quite low in the sort of Western diet. It's also known to be sort of anti-cancerous and anti-inflammatory. Like a tablespoon or so a day is sprinkle it on your porridge or rice or curry or whatever. I really recommend doing that. So at the moment it sort of just doesn't look like much, but it's going to become a bit more gloopy and a bit more like the consistency of egg. It's a really good vegan alternative to egg for binding things together. So we use it in things like our brownies, we use it in this, we use it in a few other recipes to sort of stick things together. They're starting to cook nicely. Always scary using a new hog. It seems to be working well. So we'll leave that flaxseed to sit just for a little bit, and it will become a slightly sort of thicker, gloopier texture, and then we'll use it to bind our sort of haggis together. Now, for those of you who might not be sure what veganism is, a vegan is someone who tries to avoid exploiting or using animals as far as is practically possible in our lives. So we don't wear any animal products, We don't use animals for entertainment, like zoos or circuses. We don't use cosmetics that are tested on animals or have animal products in them. And of course, we don't eat any sort of animal products. So that's all types of meat, all fish, all seafood, eggs, dairy products, and honey. Which might make you think, how could you possibly make haggis? Since traditionally, of course, it is made almost entirely from meat. But as most of you know, there are lots of sort of vegetarian, vegan alternatives to sort of everything that you have in your sort of average diet. So at the cafe, we make things like sausages, which we make out of like mushrooms and chestnuts. We make haggis. You can make all sorts of, you can make mince and things like that that are good, alternatives. So our haggis is made from quite a few different things. So the main mix of our haggis will look like that once it's sort of cooked. It does take a bit of time, but definitely worth it. This is just, I chopped up some onions and I fried them in some coconut oil until they were nice and cooked. I then added garlic. I didn't give you any chopped garlic, but you know what garlic is. Some sunflower seeds, some grated carrot, some finely chopped mushrooms. I use the sort of chestnut, slightly darker ones because I think the flavour's lovely, but obviously you can just use white mushrooms. So once my onions are cooked, this is what I did yesterday, I then add all of those things and then cook them for another probably about 10 or 20 minutes so that it starts to sort of cook down and the flavours sort of come out. After that, we'll just see how these onions are getting on. Pretty good. Give a few more minutes to fully soften and then we'll add the rest of the sauce ingredients. So after sort of some of the vegetables and stuff have cooked down, I then added our spice mix. I realise I do have a Tupperware spice, but I think it's in my bag over there, never mind. So for spices we use ground pepper, nutmeg, a little bit of cloves, ground coriander. The ground coriander is from the seed, it's not the same as the leafy green stuff. All it's the same plant. Anything else? Let's see. Got nutmeg, coriander, a little bit of paprika. We also use a bit of mustard. I like this sort of whole grain mustard, but you can use mustard powder or the Dijon mustard, whatever you have at home. A little bit of, that's our spice mix. If anyone's interested in things like this, they're welcome to come up at the end and have a sniff of our spices or have a look at the ingredients. That's totally fine. So yeah, a little bit of mustard. I use this quite often. This is just like a stock. It comes as a powder, looks like that. Some in a Tupperware. I like it because it's not got any palm oil in it, which is a substance I try and avoid eating. And it's sort of, because it's in a powder form, it's easy to just like sprinkle into things. You don't have to necessarily add it to water first and mix it around, so it's quite simple and easy to use. But any sort of stock would do. And quite a bit of yeast extract. You obviously can use like Marmite is the most commonly known sort of yeast extract, but there's a gazillion different brands and stuff. You might have a favourite, or you might hate the stuff. But I think it gives a really nice, like rich, sort of deep flavour to the haggis. So I add a decent amount of that, probably about 50 grams or so. So all of that goes with our vegetable mix, and then keep cooking it for maybe 5 or so minutes so that some of the flavours and the sort of, you can get the nice smells of all the spices. And put that on hold. We'll check those onions before they start burning. So on the sauce, all that is so far is just that vegan block and onions. They look like they're cooked now. This morning I already used my pestle and mortar to grind up some, it's mostly peppercorns, it's also got a couple of juniper berries. It tastes mostly of pepper, but I just think it's nice to have both. But I didn't want to do that here in case I didn't have time, so I already did that in this one. So in that goes. Of course, the benefit of doing this yourself is that you can choose, if you like it super peppery, you can add more pepper. If you hate juniper, you can take it out. There's also a tiny bit of ground nut, just a pinch of ground nutmeg in that. If you want to, you could grate it from the sort of nutmeg things. It's just slightly more time intensive. So we'll get that cooking there. And then I'm going to add a little bit more mustard, a bit of mustard. This is about half a tablespoon. there too. And this is going to be cooked super quickly, which is great. Now, the whiskey is totally personal preference. I'm not a massive whiskey fan myself, but I think it can be quite a nice thing to sort of like add to cooking. So I'm just going to do it like a splash of whiskey. It's not going to be a lot. It'll probably burn up and won't really taste like it at all. So you can smell it. Ooh. Burn if you're up vegan. So I'll just leave that for a couple more minutes, and then we'll add our cream and a little bit of that stock, and then that will actually be done. I hope. So back to the haggis. So once we've got the spice and things in and they've started cooking, I then add pearl barley. That's just dried pearl barley to show you if you're not sure. If you wanted a gluten-free version, we do also use buckwheat, which is a nice sort of alternative. We're selling actually our own haggis that we made at the store, and we do have some gluten-free ones if you can't stomach gluten. So we add some pearl barley and a bit of water, so enough to sort of like cover it or so, and then you cook it for probably a good hour or so. So the pearl barley takes a little while to absorb the water, and you need it to cook down so that it's reasonably dry. Probably not quite as dry as this. This has been sitting in the fridge, so it's kind of got extra dry, but it needs to not be too liquidy because we need to sort of form it into a haggis before we cook it. So that's what this is. Once I've done that, you just take it off the heat and cool it a little bit before shaping it. You can shape it when it's hot, it's just a bit harder. So I let it cool if I can, if I've got the time. Also, the benefit of doing it the day before is you can usually sort of fit it around other jobs and leave things to cool. Yeah. Right, that's fine, I'll leave that. So now we've got this, there's a few more ingredients to add before it's our fully formed haggis. One of them is cooked lentils. I cook those separately. You can buy pre-cooked lentils in a tin. You could use those, just rinse them, drain them out. I mostly just cook them from dry because it's pretty easy. You just cover them with water, don't put any salt or anything in it, and they cook for about half an hour and they'll be done. So there's some cooked lentils, we'll stick those in. Oats. Again, if you wanted gluten-free ones, you could use gluten-free oats. These are just standard sort of porridge oats, so they're not certified gluten-free. If you wanted a bit more texture, you could use the jumbo oats. So we're going to pop that in our bowl too. Start with a stir. And then our flaxseed, which, I mean, this is a huge bowl to make this small amount of flaxseed, but I didn't bring a small one, so if you can see it now, it's much sort of groupier, thicker sort of consistency, which is what we want. So that's going to go into our haggis mix too.
Just with water, isn't it?
Yep. Flaxseed and water.
Give that a stir, mix it all up. And then almost ready to cook. What am I doing on time? Not too bad. I'm going to check our haggis samples in the oven because they may be good. Turn that off. Leave it in there. Right. So that, all I've got to do now with that is I would just, if I was doing it for myself, I would check the seasoning. This is a demo, so I'm not going to bother dirtying another spoon. I check the seasoning. Benefit of vegan food is you don't have anything like raw fish or meat or eggs. One of them is vegan food, so you can happily taste it without worry that you're going to get ill. And then, of course, adjust flavours. So if you wanted some more salt or you know, even things like this, you can sort of add, sprinkle it in afterwards if you wanted. Pepper, of course, is because I'm not going to do that, and then I'm going to shape it in a minute. Right. So those are our onions done. All I'm going to add now is this is soya cream, which is just a vegan alternative to sort of single cream. I really like this brand again because I don't think it has any palm oil in it, and it's organic, and they use European soybeans. So the concerns about the rainforest with soya are not so relevant. I mean, to be honest, I think haggis is so yummy by itself. You don't necessarily need a sauce or gravy, but I guess it's nice to have it if you want it. From the smell of that, pretty peppery and junipery. So then I would just cook that for another couple more minutes, and then it will be, if you wanted it thicker, you could cook it down longer, or you could always add something like some sort of like cornflour or something, but I think it will thicken up a bit by itself, just like that, so we'll leave that. And we'll shape our haggis. Sample aside. So in the cafe we tend to bake our haggis. I know traditionally you steam it. You can steam this haggis too. We have the oven on. Often we're like roasting vegetables or we're making cakes, so we might as well just use the rest of the space and cook haggis rather than do it on the hob and use more energy. But also we're often making quite biggish quantities, so we have a bit more space in the oven. It's quite hard to steam like haggis if it's like that big. I don't have that many huge pans and hob space, so the sauce thickening up a little bit. Nice. So yeah, I tend to bake this, but you could do either. So I've just got a bit of baking parchment paper and tin foil here. I'm definitely not a pro at wrapping these, but over the last 2 days I've got better. So what I do is sort of squidge it in the middle of it, like that, and then make sure you have a bit of paper left, and I just fold it and sort of roll it down on itself, so it's a bit like a big sausage, and then I just sort of fold up or twist up the ends, a bit like that, and then just because it sort of will start to open itself because of the steam and stuff that's in there, I just do the same with the foil, to sort of like keep it nice and tight. So that would be our haggis, and then I would bake that at about 180 degrees for about an hour. And then it would still, like I said, it would come out and it would still feel quite, I mean, if you come and feel this afterwards, you'll feel it's still quite squidgy. It will come out still quite squidgy, but then it will sort of firm up a bit once it's cooled. And eventually will turn into one that's a bit more like that. Any questions? No? Good, that's a good sign. So yeah, that's our sauce sort of done. I do have now samples in the oven. I have some oat cakes I made the other day, which we can heat them on. It's going to be slightly less messy. Feel free to come up and try some haggis and oat cakes. I'll get some more napkins out. If you have any questions about haggis or veganism or the cafe at all, feel free to come and speak to me and my partner Stephen. We're at the store just there for the rest of today. I was intending to print out our recipe for everybody, but I didn't get around to reducing the quantities to a sensible sort of domestic use and checking that my scribble notes in sort of pencil and stuff on the side were all written up. So if you would like the recipe, I will leave a piece of paper and you can just, and a pen, you can always write your email address and we can get in touch afterwards. So I'll just leave that there too. And I do have a pen somewhere, I'll find it, there we go. Thanks very much, I hope it was interesting, and feel free to come and